Hi, good afternoon. My name is Andy Hemming. I head up the support process at Textlocal. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll be showcasing best practices around how to measure your campaigns. During today's session, we'll be looking at using link tracks and sharing some best practices. We'll be looking at delivery rates, and we'll also be looking at SMS credits and some test sends. During today's webinar, we will be asking for some audience participation, so for those that want to take part, please have your handsets ready to text in when required. So what we're going to do is start by taking you through to link tracks. So you'll find the additional functionality in the send message part of the system. So you'll find that by going to send text message. On the right hand side, where we see the message box, in the bottom left hand corner, here is the additional features and functionality that you can consider when sending a text message. The reasons behind using links or attachments into any text message is that it will give you some insight in terms of the response or potential parties that may be interested in engaging further. Typically, when sending a text, 98% will be read, 97% of those would be read within the first 5 seconds, and typically an average response rate would be around about the 32% mark in comparison to sort of 5% on email. So the results kind of speak for themselves. So in theory, it should be as simple as loading a database into the system, preparing a text and sending it out and waiting for a response. However, if the response rate is quite low or not what you would expect, there's nothing you can do to be proactive with that database because you don't know who was interested in the first text the first time round. So on that basis, what you'd have to do is retext that whole database, which is clearly a waste of time, effort and money. By including a link or an attachment into the message, arguably people will only engage with that link if they're interested in the content. And hidden in that link itself is a reporting tracker that post-send you can pull a report from the system to say, okay, I've just sent X amount of messages. Of the messages I sent, this is how many people clicked the link. And more importantly, the report will give you the number and the mobile device of that person that clicked. So on that level now, you can be a lot more strategic to say, okay, if the response rate isn't what we had hoped, we can now use that report as a way of engaging, but engaging with the right people for follow-up. And that could be a second round of text messages approach, maybe with a further offer or promotion as a catalyst to get those interested parties to order. Or it could be a phone call approach. Bear in mind these people are on an opted-in database in any case. They've already been warmed up through the text message, and on that basis they should be happy with some sort of engagement from you. Now, in terms of the links that you can use, each are represented in the bottom left-hand corner. You'd use each in different circumstances, and I'll run through each with you now. So the first you'll be very familiar with. It's the attachment tool, referenced by the paperclip icon that you'd normally see on an email. In short, what you can do with this, you can attach anything from a Word or a PDF document right through to an image or a video. So I'm sure you can already see how powerful that can be, not only in getting around the 160 character rule, what a lot of our clients will do if they can't keep the content to 160, they might utilize the attachment tool and send a very basic message, but also it's a great way of portraying more content. So the ability to attach flyers, newsletters, brochures, quotes, etc. The file size that you can attach is 10 meg, so it's pretty chunky. It's very easy to do. You just simply click the attachment logo, upload the file from your computer. As you can see here, all of the supported file types are there. As we've just said, the file size is 10 meg. Once you've uploaded the document in, it will come here as a preview. All you would then do is select that preview, where we then convert that into a clickable link with that link track on there. The next link you could use is the mobile web page feature, so not to be confused with creating your own website. It's actually just creating a landing page that's specific to the outbound text message, and you'll do that in the mobile web page section here. But just think, as I say, it's something referable to the outbound message as opposed to just the generic link. most basic form of link you can use is the short link feature. The short link feature essentially is just enables you to type in a landing page, such as textlocal.com, or a particular page on a website, and again, as you can see there, it's just converted into a clickable link using bit.ly. You've then got the survey or the data capture forms. This will do, as it says on the tin, the ability to create surveys, which is a great way pre or post sale engaging with customers for sort of product feedback and so on. But it actually doubles up as a data capture service. So the ability for you to create forms that's going to allow audience participation. So that could be registering interest in a product or a service, requesting a callback, whatever it may be. And then finally, you've got the tickets and vouchers system. So that could be a one-time ticket for redemption, that could be a physical ticket for entry, or a physical ticket to redeem for promotion, discount, etc. The codes generated for those tickets are unique also, so it means that they're only valid for that customer, and again our system will generate those codes for you. You've also got the loyalty side of that, which, if we take the Costa Coffee as an example, rather than the physical card in our wallet, that could simply sit on the passbook or the pass wallet on our handset. We set the criteria from our end in terms of how many purchases are required, but the system will remember each time that that card or loyalty card has been scanned, and on the X time it will send out that promotion, which can then be redeemed by the customer. So those are the additional sort of features and functionality that you can use within the system. There's no limit in terms of the amount of links that you can use within a message. Just bear in mind that you are bound by 160 characters. Just to recap on that, the system will send more than 160 characters as one text message, but it will charge per 160 characters. So in an ideal world, try and keep the message to 160 characters if you can, but as I say, feel free to incorporate as many of those links or attachments within the message, and as I say, they're a great way of portraying a richer content, but then having some insight post-send in terms of who may or may not have been interested in that communication. It may be a consideration, whilst we're talking about links, to consider our Optout service. I know there's a number of representation today on the webinar. There's some retailers on there, but I know there's also some organisations that don't typically sell products and services. So the Optout service, our best practice on that would be, if you're canvassing for something, so you're looking to push a product or a service onto a customer, and naturally they have the right not to receive the text message. So please bear in mind our Optout service. It's a free service. Now what happens is it's just a tick on or a tick off, as you can see here. And ultimately, if that customer decides they don't want to receive the message, they just text the Optout path back to 60777, and they'll be automatically removed from the database. If it's a service-based message, then on that level, we would suggest that actually you don't really need to include the Optout path, because you are just advising of an appointment or opening times, or it's very customer service led. So on that basis, you can assume your customers will be happy to receive that type of content. So that covers off the links and the attachments and the importance of using those. What I'd like to do now is send a text out to everybody on today's session. So what I'm going to need first is numbers. So to do that, I'm going to ask you to text our data capture service. Now, this is something we've discussed on previous webinars, not something I'm going to go into any depth on today. So feel free to go to our video tutorial section if you're interested in learning more about this concept. But for those that want to take part, if you can get your handsets at the ready, open up a new message, and in the toolbar just type 60777. So that number again is 60777. And in the message itself, just type the word webinar. So that's WEBINAR. So just to confirm there, that's new message, 60777 is the destination, and the keyword webinar. If you then hit this the send button, you should just get an auto response, which thanks you for joining us today. but more importantly, what that will now do is give me the numbers to just send you an example text, which has got some links and attachments that you'll be able to engage with and see in a live scenario how you could best utilize that functionality. Whilst I'm waiting for everybody to catch up, and there's been a number of questions as we've been going along, I have had some questions around, are there any additional costs to using this service? Absolutely not. We charge you a credit per 160 character message. So just to recap on that, a credit is one message, and a message is 160 characters long. Now, anything link or attachment wise incorporated into that message doesn't add any more weight to the service in terms of cost. So I know everybody on today's call is an existing customer. You'll each be sending different volumes and on different types of rates. So if you just consider what you normally pay for a single credit, you won't pay anything on top of that for using those links or attachments, just to confirm that. So I'm hoping by now everybody that wants to take part has texted in. So what we would now do is select the group on the left hand side. Again, that's something we've covered off on previous webinars. We select the template and we're now ready to send that text message. We always get a breakdown of who that's going from and to, the nature of the text itself, as well as the credit costs, as we've just covered off. And if I now send that text message, everybody that's chosen to take part should receive that relatively quickly, normally within 3 to 5 seconds. And as you'll see from the message itself, you are able to click through. And what you should get there is a landing page where you can download several brochures or watch YouTube videos that will go into a bit more depth about the service. And the second link on there is actually showcasing the attachment tool, and that's simply just a PDF version of our brochure. So naturally what we're going to want to do now is we've discussed the importance of using those links for the stats and the analysis. So clearly we're going to want to pull some reports on that. So we do that by going to Reports, All Reports. Top right corner we refer to the short links. And here we'll have dialogue now of any link that we've used through the sort of lifetime cycle of the account. I'm just going to click one that's had a number of engagement. As you can see, I use this for various demonstrations. But here you'd see the link itself, how many actual clicks you've had, so there you'd be able to work out a click-through percentage based on total number send. If you now view the stats, what you'll get first and foremost is some analysis in terms of mobile device type and screen resolution. And this is really quite handy because if you can profile your customer database and you know, let's say, the majority have an iPhone, we've discussed that you can create data capture forms, survey tools, vouchers, tickets, and so on. So if you know the majority have an iPhone, you could start to be biased or tailor those pages that you create to suit those types of handset. And also what it's suggesting that actually if you get a high click-through rate, that your audience like engaging that way, so where possible, use more and more links. You'll also get a plotted line graph. Now this plots who's clicked and when they've clicked, so you can target in sequential order. Clearly you'll look to target the people that clicked today before moving on to the ones that click tomorrow and so on. And now if we export that as a CSV, what that will do is it will transfer all of this information into an Excel spreadsheet. I call this a ready-made sales sheet. So what this could now happen with this is it could be passed over to a sales team for follow-up by a call, as we discussed earlier. Or potentially it could just be loaded back into the system as a contact group. And on that basis, what you could then do is send a second text message, and again that message could, as we discussed earlier, could be a little bit more strategic, and it could have a further offer or promotion on it. Now in our opinion it's essential that you include into any message you send some form of clickable link, because it will give you the analysis. But also what we've found through some research that we've done alongside the DMA who regulate our industry is that 50% of people that are interested in your communication won't make contact with you. So actually if you don't have that link or attachment on there to see who those click-throughs are, potentially you're losing 50% of the people that were interested. Now actually if you could influence that, alright, you're not going to convert 100%, but in theory you should stop that 50% drop-off rate, and for no extra cost to the service, it's well worth looking at, and it's going to maximise your return for your investment and get some good engagement and traction with your client base. So I obviously can't export that for today's purposes for data protection, but for on a one-to-one basis, if you need any help understanding the report once it's exported, feel free to contact me directly on that. I'm more than happy going into a bit more depth on the report itself. That's the most important report. That's obviously the links and the click-throughs. Another report you'll find useful is the delivery report. So naturally, you'll load the data into the system. It's not something we've covered today. We've done that on other webinars in the past. Again, they're stored on the video tutorials section of our website. Feel free to take a look at those. But ultimately, you're going to load data into the system. Now, naturally, people will change their number, forget to tell you. Human error, you might transpose figures and so on. So it's always important after each text send that you ensure that you pull a delivery report. Now, the report itself is not actually Textlocal telling you we've delivered the message. We've got great reputations with the major networks in the UK, the likes of Optout, EE, Vodafone and so on. So the report that you will pull from the system is actually the network reporting back to Textlocal that they've delivered the message. Now, clearly, if you don't get it delivered, you'll be very keen to understand why that message wasn't delivered. And clearly, if it's an invalid number, this report will help you cleanse your database. So in theory, once you've done a first round of sending, the second time round, you should get a 100% delivery rate. And you'll find that report by coming to Reports, All Reports, coming down into the SMS message history here, and depending on what type of message you sent, whether that be a single, a group message, or using the email to SMS or API, will depend on which section you go into. But ultimately, we'll come into groups for today's benefit. We'll see the message that we sent and the content. Now, again, sadly, I can't click the check button here because of data protection purposes, but on the next screen, what you would then see is a live breakdown of whether that message has been received or not. I'm just going to help you understand the report itself. So what you'll get is a breakdown of delivered, pending, undelivered, and invalid. Now you might question what I said earlier around us sending text within 3 to 5 seconds, how that could possibly pend if we're sending messages that quick. Now the simple answer on that is that ultimately you're at the mercy of that particular person having signal, their phone switched on, and the number being correct. So if there's a breakdown on any one of those criteria, what will happen is the message will pend. Dependent on the network's SLA in terms of how often they'll try and resend that, it's a maximum of 48 hours. The system will constantly retry and send that message. After that maximum period of 48 hours, the message will stop being sent, or trying to be sent, should I say, and that will be put into an undelivered status. So please bear in mind, an undelivered doesn't necessarily mean it's an invalid number. It could simply be that that person has had their phone switched off for 2 days. So on that basis, you'll see that all of the reports are exportable into a CSV. Our best practice advice on that would be, if you do get any undelivereds, export them into an Excel spreadsheet and store them. When you do a second, third, fourth attempt, etc., cross-reference the reports. What you should hope is that the next send undelivered should be a lot less than the first time round, and any numbers that are repeated across both reports, then maybe at that point you make a judgment call to say that's actually a dead number. We'll delete that, but at least give it a second, if not a third bite of the cherry, before you consider deleting those numbers. Any invalid, that is a self-explanatory. On that basis, just delete those numbers, or make a beeline to get in contact with the customer to update the details, because ultimately they're taking credits off your balance, and then the message is never getting to its intended destination, so therefore it's eating into your overall return for investment. That concludes what I wanted to talk about today. So just as a recap or a quick summary there, we've showcased the importance of using links and attachments. We've covered off that they're free additions or additional free functionality that you can use that obviously enhances our offering to you, but in a live scenario you would use those to improve your response rates. and I've shown you the reporting post-send in terms of where you pull those reports that will enable you to follow up, to convert, and we've also looked at the importance of cleansing your database. Now, in terms of the links and the attachments themselves, i.e. creating them, such as the surveys, the data capture forms, these are all things that we've either covered on past webinars or will be doing in subsequent webinars, so look out for future invites on those. If there's any pressing requirements and you would like me to showcase the system in a little bit more depth, perhaps as a general overview, or you'd like some sort of sector-specific advice or guidance, then feel free to contact me again directly. My direct dial is 01244 573 246. That number again, 01244 573 246. And as I said right at the start of the webinar, my name's Andy Hemming, and I'm the customer support manager. So feel free to direct any queries or concerns that you've got following today's session. So I hope everybody found this useful, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again at some point in the near future. Many thanks.